It's loud. All right. So today I thought it would be fun to talk about motivation and willpower and things like that, especially as we're moving out of like challenge mindset to be like, okay, how do we keep this going so that it's not just a 21-day thing? And it's not to mean that to live a healthy lifestyle, you have to be smashing 6 cups of fruits and veggies like every day until the end of time. It's the nice thing about a challenge is that it kind of pushes you like above and beyond. And say your baseline of what your normal was here, you then push yourself to go to here, and now you've created a new normal. And then after the challenge, it's like you may come to here as your baseline, but now it's a new threshold of what's kind of normal and average for you. And every time you kind of make those jumps, your what is the new normal that you go back to gets into a different position every time. So that's kind of the mindset we want to be in versus this all or nothing thinking where we like go full on. And then if we're not going full on, it's full off. And then after so much time repeated of that, we actually end up nowhere different versus going, okay, we're gonna push ourselves while keeping in mind we want to make sure we're setting up our environment so that this is sustainable and repeatable and things like that, so that new normal ends up being here. So new normal. I'm dropping that a lot. Some of the prizes are going to be some new normal hoodies, so keep at it. Okay, so if no one has any kind of questions to start it off, or any things they like to share, or any fruits and veggies or whatnot, I can kind of just jump into a few things I've learned along the way on my own personal food journey, and like what helped me get from feeling so out of control around food and binging and bloated and uncomfortable in my body and uncomfortable around food and making decisions like that, to a place where now food is an awesome part of my life versus it being all consuming and all I can think about, and a negative thing in my life. So I want to share all the things I learned along the way, and maybe it resonates with some of you, or to someone you know, so you can kind of pass that along. And yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about motivation and willpower, because that tends to be a very big piece of the puzzle when we're trying to create new changes and like new habits and things like that. Like we talked about last week, these little cues or things to notice, because awareness is the first step in making change. So some of the lines that I like to bring awareness to that you might notice when motivation is lacking is, I don't feel like it, and I'll do it tomorrow. So notice those, kind of put your brain filter on those to catch it when you're saying that, or when you notice yourself saying that. So that can be your first cue of going, ooh, am I stuck in like an unhelpful pattern right now because I'm using those phrases that kind of get me into a spiral in the other way. And they might be different phrases for you. Those are just ones that that stuck out to me when I was trying to make changes, was like, whatever, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And then I started to recognize that that was part of the pattern. And so then when I catch myself, those thoughts going, you know what, it's fine, whatever, just do it tomorrow. Then I go, ooh, if I do what I've always done, I'll get what I have always got. And so now I use those as cues, like, oh, that's what old me would do, is say, well, I don't feel like it, or I'll do it tomorrow. And now I use those as little cues to go, oh, okay, I'm noticing that I'm on that train of thought, and that train's not going in the direction I want. So awareness is a really important step. But the biggest thing I learned about motivation that was helpful is that motivation comes after action. It doesn't come before action. Often we feel we need to feel like it and feel motivated before taking action, but it's actually the reward and the byproduct of taking action. And when I noticed that and kind of flipped the script on that, like, wait a second, motivation is the reward for taking action, so many different things changed. And I stopped using feeling like it as the first step to doing something. Now you just do it anyways. And then the reward is you feel motivated. And then the snowball goes in the opposite direction. And we know that we all have that skill, because there's probably different areas, in your world where you don't feel like doing something, but you do it anyways. Whether it's on some days going to work, you might not feel like it, but you do it anyways. Whether it's getting up at like 5 a.m. to take your kid to a cold arena for like hockey tournament, or whether it be deciding not to splurge on a really nice outfit because you want to pay your mortgage instead. So we all have that skill of doing it anyways. And now we just want to translate that skill to the habits that are surrounding our health and fitness. And a big part of that is our identity. The reason we can go to work when we don't feel like it is because we identify as, well, I'm a responsible adult. I'm a good, reliable colleague. Like those are part of our identities. So we do the actions that align with that identity. Or you identify as like, I'm one of those parents who shows up. Like that's who I am. So even when you don't feel like it, you do it anyways because it's who you are. And so we want to really reinforce that belief about ourselves that, oh, we're a fit and healthy person. Like we need to really believe that, and then we'll take the actions that a fit and healthy person does. And when I say a healthy person, that doesn't mean someone who only ever eats certain foods or has to work out until it hurts like every single day. Healthy is what you decide it is. There's so many different areas of health. There's like your social health, your environmental health, your financial health, emotional health, intellectual health, so many different areas. And what's healthy for you is what's the right balance of the things that are priorities to you. But if we make sure to really identify as that type of person, we'll be able to start doing the things that that type of person does. So that's my little, spiel on motivation. And feel free to like drop a little thumbs up or a yes in the chat if you feel like that is going to be a helpful little turn of the phrase, instead of thinking that you need motivation before the action, but then flipping that and going, motivation is what comes after. So keep that in mind. And another little caveat on this that I noticed in myself is we can often try to talk ourselves into little loopholes with the idea of self-care. And so then there becomes this question of like, okay, well, how do I know if I'm giving myself self-care by choosing not to do this thing, or am I being lazy? Am I like, how do I know which one it is? Like, am I saying, oh, I'm not going to go to the gym today because my body needs a rest? How do I know that I'm actually doing it out of a way of self-care? Or how do I know that I'm not pushing through the resistance of chopping up those veggies because I'm just burnt out and I can't do it? Or is it actually, I'm just trying to find a loophole to not do the things that I know I should be doing? And, you're the only you that's ever existed before. So the only way to know is through trial and error and experimentation. And then you start to get to know yourself better. So when you're doing trial and error to try to decide like, okay, should I have actually pushed through this like little resistance of not feeling like it and went to the gym? Or is it because I actually need a rest day and I'm getting burnt out? Is you'll either feel drained or recharged after the act. So you'll know through trial and error. Some days where you're like, oh my God, I don't feel like it. Like I feel like I should probably just chill. I'm really tired. And then you're like, okay, so you choose to have a rest day and not go do the gym or not go do your groceries or whatever. And then if you're still feeling kind of like drained and guilty afterwards, then you'll know for next time, be like, oh, okay, when I'm feeling like that, maybe that's not what I needed. And sometimes we'll know through trial and error because say we have a friend that's meeting us at the gym, so we go anyways because we have that little external accountability. And then we feel way better afterwards. So then that's some evidence, in your back pocket of going like, okay, so sometimes what I really need is that exercise or is to meal prep that food because it will charge me up for later. So learn through trial and error and experimentation, and you'll know if it was the right call, if you're feeling charged up or if you're still feeling drained and then kind of like unsettled with yourself. Because sometimes when it comes to doing the hard work, getting your fruits and veggies ready or getting your steps in or going outside when you don't feel like it, sometimes what we need is rest. Sometimes we're tired from doing too much, and so the solution is rest. But sometimes we're tired from doing too little of the things that fire us up. Yeah. So sometimes I love that. And you like you're cheering it on. Yeah. So that's something to remind ourselves. Sometimes we're doing too much. Sometimes we're doing too little of the things that fire us up. So keep an open mind to what the solutions could be. It might not be doing less. It might be, are you adding in things that you like look forward to and that you enjoy and that like light you up? So keep both of those things in mind. Sometimes we need to speed up and sometimes we need to slow down. So on that topic, and feel free, pause me at any time if you like have any questions or want any clarity on some stuff, or even have some stories that you found have like worked for you, or things that have been tools that have been really helpful for you or people you know. Like this is your space to kind of share that. The other topic when it comes to, I really want to talk about things that make these changes sustainable, because I want you guys to be like thriving post challenge. You know what I mean? So the other thing is this idea of willpower. Sometimes we feel, okay, well, I just need to try hard enough, or I don't have as much willpower as the next person, and all these things. So one of the tools that I like to use as a visual for that is, instead of thinking that other people just have more willpower than us, which is something out of our control, and it takes the responsibility away from us, which may feel good in the moment. But when we have no responsibility over our actions and the reason things are the way that they are, that means we also don't have the power to fix them. So we want to like take ownership and take responsibility of everything. So let's imagine that everybody has 10 willpower points, we'll say, like 10 willpower points available. What impacts our willpower is our environment. We have different environments that may use up our willpower points, so to speak, faster than maybe others. And then that's where we get into this moment where it's like, okay, it's the end of the day, and then our willpower points have been depleted. So then it's like the, either driving home from work or the 10 p.m. when the kids are in bed. And then we just get rid of all of our good ideas from Monday morning and do the actions that don't feel super great for us. So what we can do is focus on setting up our environment so that we're not burning through those willpower points all the time. But I'll just give you an example of what that can mean. Like, our environment are things that like can be stressors on us, drain our energy, visual cues, things like that. So let's pretend that, well, okay, we wake up and our goal is, we don't want to overeat on the chips that are there because they gave us a stomach ache and it's been messing up with our sleep or whatever. So we go into the day, we're fresh with like 10 willpower points, but we hit the snooze button. So then we're rushing. So then we're all stressed out. Then we hit rush hour traffic, and then we're yelling at the people who won't move at the green light. All these stressors are happening. And then, and then in the morning, even before you leave, you open the cupboard and your visual cues are all these foods that are easy to grab, but not supportive of your balanced, blood sugar or whatnot, or you don't have the other foods available. So then you have to go through that mental battle of going like, oh, okay, I want one of those. Okay, no, maybe not. And then all those times you're battling with yourself, that's also you losing energy. And then you maybe didn't do some meal prep or chop and talk. So then you don't have food, so then you're too hangry when you're halfway through the day, and then the donuts are calling your name, and then you have to battle to like not overeat on the donuts. So then there's goes some more willpower, and then boom, by the time you get home, you got nothing, and then you feel like you can't make any conscious choices. So then you're left to your subconscious habitual patterns, which only focus on comfort and survival. Like, it's just trying to get you through the day in the best way it knows how. So I hope that kind of visual gives an idea of like how our environment can impact our willpower. So we have power to kind of shift that by changing our environment a little bit. And that could look like setting up a morning routine so you're not frantically rushing out of the door. It could look like putting the foods that are draining, like, it's not that you're not allowed to have them, but that they don't make you feel good, they're easy to grab, you end up having to like battle back and forth mentally all the time, which drains your energy. Put those in a cupboard that you don't see when you're making your morning coffee, things like that. Surround yourself with people who are doing the things that you want to be doing. That's a huge one. If there's something that you want to be doing, surround yourself with people who are already doing it, and you're going to ride their wave of momentum. So those are a couple things on willpower that can be really helpful. Kind of thinking it like that, I find is powerful. It's not that other people have more willpower. It's not that you have to try harder. Try smarter instead of trying harder. Set up your environment so it's not draining your willpower by 9 a.m. and then you're struggling against your subconscious like all day. So if you have any thoughts or ideas on that, you let me know. But when it comes to sustainability, okay, now we'll move on to some thoughts around sustainability and how do we make this a lifestyle? So feel free to drop it in the chat if like some of the habits you've been working on in the 21-day challenge, if you want that to be a part of your everyday life moving forward, drop a little yes in the chat or on the Facebook stream. And then we can talk about ways of making it sustainable. Nice, love it. Yeah, let's keep this good stuff going. So when it comes to sustainability, a big, big word around that is finding balance. And I think balance sometimes makes us think that we have to get to this point where we have it all figured out, like balance meaning like everything's steady. And once I've got it figured out, boom, I don't have to worry about it anymore. But that idea kind of sets us up for failure because we're always changing. Our life is always changing. So our lifestyle needs to change and adapt with it. And so what worked for us 2 weeks ago might not be the plan that's working for us now. So if anybody is like somewhere where they can stand, I'd love you to try balancing on one foot and just balancing. Try balancing on one foot. I'm gonna do it with you guys too, which is funny. So anyways, you're balancing on one foot. And what you can feel in your body as you're doing that is all the tendons in your feet and everything, all your muscles, they're constantly moving to keep you balanced. And so the visual behind this is balance isn't just figuring it out and then nothing ever changing. Balance is constantly adjusting to everything that's happening in the moment. So you're always going to be evolving, always going to be changing, shifting, all this jazz. So you're not just going to figure out one plan and then boom, never have to think about your health and fitness ever again. You're constantly adjusting and finding. That's what balance really is. So I like to keep that in mind so that you're always in the mindset of like, you're always figuring it out because you're always changing. And there's an idea of, you guys have probably heard of like 80-20, like balanced lifestyle. One way I've started thinking about 80-20 that I find really helpful is looking at it on a macro level. Versus sometimes we're like, okay, if our lifestyle is 80-20, that means like 80% of the time, every day, 80% of the foods have to be like nutritious and clean or whatever, and 20% can be fun. So then what happens when we have a cold and then we eat nothing but dry crackers? Then we feel like we're failing our balanced lifestyle. So I like to think of, say we pick 80-20 as our average, and like some people, balance for them, the lifestyle that they like might look like 90-10. But for all intents and purposes, 80-20, look at it not as like a daily average, but a lifestyle average. Some days you're going to be like firing on all cylinders. You'll have the bandwidth to do all the things. So you'll be at like 95-5, where 95% of the things that you're doing are supportive of your health. And some days when you have a cold or your kids got gastro or you had to work overtime, it's going to look more like 40-60. And other days you're going to like smash a solid 50-50. But what we want to do is look at our overall lifestyle average. Are you hitting 80-20? So when you can, you go for 90-10. And then sometimes it's going to be less than that. And I just found that a really less stressful and helpful way of understanding that it's an average. So it's like at school, you can get 90s on a bunch of tests. And when you get a 50, it doesn't mean you're just going to fail. It just your average is still 89. So when you have those days where you feel like you're off track and things aren't going well, it doesn't have to be a dumpster fire and you don't have to give up. You just go, okay, well, I'm just going to need to put more reps in to bring my average up. No problem. We don't have to like give up right now. So I found that idea of balance and 80-20, it just made things a lot more helpful for me. And anytime that I felt like things didn't go the way I thought they were going to go, it didn't turn it into a big moment to give up. Oh, I can always adjust my average. Okay, tomorrow this is what I'm going to do. And it's my lifestyle that matters over months and years. So I'm just checking in the chat there. Devin was saying, I like the idea of adding in more good rather than taking things away. The more I add in good, the less room I have for the other stuff. Totally true. That's my like favorite secret outcome of this challenge, is that we get to focus on adding in all the good stuff, and it just takes up so much room of so much good that it naturally crowds out the things that aren't as supportive of us. But we're not in this feeling of lack because we're not giving up anything, so we don't have to feel obsessed about it because we're not cutting anything out. We're just adding in so much freaking good in our life that it crowds out the other side stuff. And you can take that approach to like anything in life. You add in so much positivity and so many amazing people out there. When you run into the people who are being rude and shutting doors in your face, it's like, that's far and few between, because you've stuffed your life with so much good that it's not going to throw you off. So you can kind of use that idea with a bunch of different areas in your life. Now, more on sustainability. I'd like to think of, because often we'll get focused on, well, what's the right thing to do? Like, what's the right thing to do? And the right thing to do changes on whatever season you're in your life. Like snow pants, they're the right thing in the winter. In the summer, not a great option. And so you want to think about your choices for your life in seasons like that too. If you're in a season of body composition and just getting curious about leaning out and see what that's like, well, then saying no to the spontaneous girls' night and eating your planned meal, it's like that's the right choice, and you can be proud of yourself for staying true to what's important to you. Then if you're wanting to create a healthy relationship with food and experiment with safety around foods that you were afraid of before, or you're just needing more social time in your life, then the right choice in that moment would be, hell yeah, answer the phone and go with your girls. And there's no right or wrong. It depends what is best for you in that moment. And when it comes to finding balance with food, the other visual, if anyone's heard me talk a lot, I think I think of things in pictures a little bit, but it's important to know how our body works, right? Our body is the home for our soul. So there are certain building blocks that make our body strong and resilient. Those are like what we've been focusing on: protein, plants, like whole foods, water, movement, things like that. They're the building blocks for our house. So let's picture like an actual house. If we were building a house that we wanted to live in, if we just focus on the building blocks, like, yeah, sure, we had good, strong foundation and roof, but we put nothing, no comfy couches, no TVs, nothing in there. It's like, wouldn't be that much fun to live in and to spend our time in there. But if we had crappy walls that didn't have strong foundation, and every time it rained, we were freezing cold and everything was wet, and all we had in there was TVs and cushions and paintings, then it also wouldn't be that fun to live in. So we want to figure out, how do we want to set up our house so that's a place we want to be in and that we're comfortable and we can do all the things we want to do. And there's not one right house. Some people might like a minimalist apartment in the city. Some people might want something with acres on a farm and full of stuff. So there's no one right way. You just figure out what it is that you want to live in, if that makes sense. So yeah, feel free. Let me know if that visual of like building a house, the building blocks, the foundation, things like that are really important, but also so is making it livable and enjoyable in there. Like if that feels like a visual that you can kind of get behind and it kind of makes sense and it'll help you make food decisions, feel free to drop a little a little yes or thumbs up, things like that. I love that. Perfect. Awesome. I love hearing, making sure that it's helpful and stuff like that. And I don't want to keep you guys on too long, but there's one last little visual around balance and sustainability that I wanted to share that in my own life I found very helpful. Because sometimes when we're trying to focus on our health, we can focus on one aspect as the be all and the end all. And often it comes to be around food. And so we can get real focused on, okay, it has to be clean food. It has to be whole foods, prepared, organic, like, okay, that's the only way I can support my health. But it's one way. And when we only have one way, so many other things that can get in the way. And then we feel like we're off track, and then we get all or nothing thinking. So what I like to think of is that we have multiple ways of influencing the health of our body. And I like to look at them as they're all on dials. So often when I think of all or nothing, it's either like you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong. So it's like an on or off switch. So when your focus is on, okay, whole clean foods is the only way to impact our life, you're either doing it right or doing it wrong. And there's no kind of in between. So it gives you no flexibility for when life happens and gets in the way. So throughout my time studying nutrition and working one-on-one with clients and just going through it myself, some of the big pillars that I found big impacts on our health is the quality of food. So the quality of food, like we were talking about, the building blocks of our house, like, yeah, the quality of food, super important. Also, the quantity of food. Are we having the right amount for what is helpful for our body? And then we have sleep, stress, movement, and water. All of these things have huge impacts on our health. And now this gives us a wide array of different ways to manage our health. And we can adjust the dials of those different pillars to help us find that balance. Like, remember, that balance is kind of constantly adjusting. So I think of us constantly adjusting those dials to be able to give our body the best support. So for example, the way I would use this idea is, say you are going to a work function or going to a potluck. So you may not have influence over the quality of food that is there. And if that was our only measure of success, we'd be overwhelmed and stressed out and be like, well, shit, I can't do it. I failed. I might as well give up. I'll start again Monday. But if we know that there's so many other ways that we can impact our health, now all our brain does is, ooh, okay, the quality of food currently, that dial is turned down. So how can I make little adjustments? Is I focus on the other areas. Quantity. Okay, I can turn the focus on that dial up and go, you know what? Regardless of what's available, I know that I can focus on mindful eating, slow down, chew my food, and find portions that still feel good in my body. I can focus on turning up the dial of stress management. Like, hey, you know what? The quality of food may be turned down, but I'm surrounded by a ton of people I love, and it's really like filling up my social battery. So that means my stress management dial is turned up because I'm feeling great and I'm surrounded by a bunch of loving people. Tonight, I can make sure I follow my bedtime routine and, get my water in between my glasses of wine. So I know that I'm also dialing up those different dials. So it just gives us so much more room to play. So I've written those down, and I can post that or share them. Like, would you guys like a little PDF of those 6? Yeah, Angel up there. Perfect. The quality and some examples around it. So if you guys would like that, I can send that to you just as like a reminder of some of the things to look at. And then, yeah, perfect. Okay, I'll make sure to send that over to you guys. Now, there's one last little mini challenge. And speaking of one of the 6 dials, so we're going to focus on water, because water is one of those other ways we're like mostly water. So when we're talking about building blocks of our body, that's a big one. So we're getting in the plants, we got the protein. Now we're going to focus on water. And I would love, because then often we get caught up in like, okay, well, what's the best? How much water do I need? Like, give me a target, which takes away a little bit of your autonomy of learning about yourself and trying things out. So what I want to see from you guys is, at least for one day throughout the weekend, to post your water intake. So track your water intake and write it down. Did you get in 6 cups today? Did you get in 60 ounces? However you want to track it, just track your water intake, because awareness is the first step. We can't change what we don't know, and we don't know what's perfect for us until we know what's not perfect for us. So just track your water intake and then mark that down. The awareness is key. And when it comes to finding what's the best amount of water, you'll start to listen to your body. Think of it like a plant. Different plants need different water, and depending on the environment, will need it differently. So you can go by your cues of like, are you thirsty or things like that? And do you feel like you have to go to the bathroom like every 5 seconds? Is your pee coming out like totally clear? You're maybe drinking too much water. Or do you barely pee during the day and it's like dark and smells strong? Use those as cues. But for now, just focus on tracking your water so you have an idea. Just bring some awareness there. So that's going to be the mini challenge to have posted, before the end of the day, Sunday, because we're going to be wrapping up the challenge. There'll be a reminder on Sunday to tally up your points. Remember, 2 points for posting and hitting 6 cups, 1 point for posting and participating, 2 points for showing up to these calls. You guys are already crushing it. And then 1 point for watching the replay and then commenting a takeaway. And then I'll get to announce, the winners and start doling out some of the prizes. And, if I haven't said it already, so pumped to see you guys participating. And like, I've gotten so much inspiration from you guys, from all your meals and your collages, and just like seeing you guys show up. It's been amazing. So I hope you guys are having fun. And that's that last little challenge. And then we'll be able to wrap things up, and you've done so much good for your body. And so I'm just going to take another peek in the chat, make sure I didn't miss anything. And as like usual, I'm gonna like keep this space open, for a few extra minutes. So if anybody has any questions or they're typing, this is like, I'm here. It's your time to like ask any questions. So just reading through here, the hardest for me is the speed of eating. Yeah, eating too fast, only have 30 minutes for meals at work, needing to learn to slow down. That's a big one. And when it comes to digestion, like slowing down and chewing is so important. It's hard to, people talk about listen to your body, and which is a great concept, but it makes it really hard to listen to our body when we're distracted or having to eat really fast. Like, how do you eat intuitively in those ways? And so we need to kind of adjust and pivot for our actual lifestyle. Like when we only have a really short break because our job is crazy, then we can make pivots by being like, okay, I need to find something that's like nutrient dense and also doesn't take a ton of chewing. And so you pick different options for when you have, less time, so that you can give your body what it needs. And then knowing that, then the days when you're not at work, you're like, okay, this is when I'm going to get in my non-starchy fibrous foods, because I have more time to like chew and not be stressed out. And then the times when I know I don't have time, I'll stick to like soups and stews, or like something more dense, like have mashed potatoes versus having bok choy that takes more chewing, things like that. But yeah, it's just it's a work in progress, and we're always just practice. If fast eating were a sport, you'd come in first place. That's hilarious. All right. And yeah, water, 80 ounces a day. That's awesome. Yeah, I like to think of it as, if anyone's eaten beef jerky before, think of your muscles like that's what your muscles kind of look like if you're dehydrated. And if you're wondering, like, man, I keep getting injured all the time, might be a little dehydrated and the poor muscles are just not flexible, snapping all over the place. Or if you notice like your skin's not really, doesn't go back to where it should, it's like you might be a bit dehydrated. You can do a little test by like yanking up your skin and then letting it go, and does it bounce back? Like, how's the collagen and hydration in your skin, things like that. But yeah, other than that, I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll just be here for a few more minutes. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute and speak up. But other than that, keep crushing it, guys. It's so fun to watch. Check on Facebook. Bye. Love it. Love it. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Perfect. All right. Take care, everybody.